One. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a wonderful interview that we're going to be having this morning. Myself, Shireen Hunter, with Claudina and Herman Hafenscher from Hafenscher. We recently posted a video, it was a 1-minute video of Claudina chatting about the toothbrush. And unbeknown to us, that story about the toothbrush went viral on social media. People just loved the toothbrush, Claudina, and that's exactly right. You raise your eyebrows and say, well, what is it about the toothbrush that is so significant and that people loved and liked and shared the message about? So you talk about the secret of the toothbrush. Claudina, tell us, where did the story start with the toothbrush in your marriage with Herman?
I think that was one of the first things we did when we still courting, because he had the privilege of staying in our garage at that stage before we got married. And whenever we together in the bathroom or whenever we brush our teeth, we say, you know what? Just now I'm thinking of you. And I was very young. I was still in school, almost just before our marriage already. That was that little courting token of listen, thinking of you, instead of writing the letter and the little love letter. That was actually the starting point, I think, before the marriage, as far as I can remember. And that carried on. And that is how it worked. The first thing in the morning when I do my tooth, I think, oh, let me put his, and then then I was still in love with him. Now I just love him. Yeah.
So who started the toothbrush and toothpaste? Was it you or was it Herman?
I wouldn't know. I think it just happened. It was just one of those things that, I didn't have, living in the garage, I didn't have my own bathroom facility. So every time that there was a need for the bathroom, I had to go into the main house to use the bathroom. So it just became one of those things, the bathroom was then shared among all those siblings. And I was now one of the ones that used that specific bathroom as the sibling, and my toothbrush was just part of the bunch of toothbrushes in the bottle, or in the cup. And I cannot recall whether I'll give her the credit that she started it, but that it became a thing. Whoever was there first would do this. And it was just, I think of you, I remember you, and this, you are special to me. That was just part of that message that came through.
Yeah. And so tell me, Herman, how many years have you and Claudina now been sharing the responsibility? Because as I understand it, it is a shared responsibility. It's not one or the other. How long have you been sharing the responsibility of putting the toothpaste on the toothbrush?
Well, it's never been a responsibility. It's a little safe place. It's a little, let's call it a safe place, because we could be in each other's hair at any time, and whether it be a big thing or a small thing, it doesn't really matter. But that next morning, whether you spoke about it through the course of the night or sorted it out before we went to bed or whatever the case may be, that next morning, the crucial part of whomever is first just does it. And the safe place is that whenever you find that there's toothpaste on the brush, that you're still okay, and she's still okay with you, So I don't think it's not a responsibility. It's just the thing. Whoever is there first just does it. It's like the last one gets out of bed. That's the guy that makes the bed, and it's just one of those things that we just do without thinking of it as a chore, for that matter. But it's just let's call it a little soft cushioning safe place.
Well, I think it's quite a significant action, because if you woke up one morning and the other party had not put the toothpaste on the toothbrush, that would send out quite a loud message, right? That would be quite a serious, we are not in a good place. So my question to you is, over the last few decades of marriage, has there ever come a time in your life where one person did not put the toothpaste on the toothbrush?
Never, no. No, it's been 30, 35, 36 years now, but never. It's never happened.
I think so I think this whole action, as you could hear, Shireen, is we didn't say, okay, let's plan what are we going to do in life to just remind us. And 1, 2, 3, okay, let's do the toothbrush. I think it was something like that. It was easy to break the promise because you would have felt, okay, that's the one thing he said we must do. But I think because that little action started spurting off from falling in love and just continue that original reminder of doing that for him especially, because in the beginning it was really me showing him, I'm thinking of you and thank you. And that was like almost a kiss on the toothbrush. I mean, you're staying with your parents, you cannot do whatever you like to do with this person. So that was my little private kiss to him. And I think because we didn't have rules around it, it is something that we took out of our 14 years. And just that is one of the things. I actually think that is more prevalent than even the marriage vows that we did, that little action. So we won't play with that. And I think that was the unspoken starting point, not a thing by rules, because as soon as you fabricate something or you try to say from now on, we are not going to do this, put yourself up for failure. And this thing just prolonged. And I think that is the success, is finding that special point or special action and just carry on without saying, now we are doing it. And I think that is what it became. Now it is like, it's our thing. And what happens now, if I get to the toothbrush and he didn't brush his teeth, I say, yeah, we're in that phase of the life now. Let's see who's pensioner first. So
I mean, Claudina, you talk about, this is the one thing we don't play with, right? Which for me demonstrates very clear boundaries. This is one thing we don't play with. We do not play with this thing in the morning. We start our day with whoever is in there first puts the toothpaste on the toothbrush. How important do you think those unspoken boundaries are in a lifelong marriage or relationship? Because you say it almost as though it's kind of matter of fact, like, you know, we just don't play with that. But there's a lot of people playing with a lot of things in their relationships or their marriage that they shouldn't be playing with. So let's talk a little bit about boundaries and boundaries in relationships. And then specifically, I mean, you speak about the 4 different personality types. Which personality type flows with the boundaries and which personality type probably will struggle with boundaries in an interpersonal relationship?
Well, I can start. The boundaries that I know is my husband very early on realized that he's going to have to make me fly and go. If he wanted to suppress me and being bound by rules, we could not. And luckily, there was another thing that we had. I'm very claustrophobic, and he tried to contain me one day. Because, you know, in the beginning, you tickle each other when you're in love. You know, that's the way it's an excuse to fall in love. And I keep on tickling him and he held me in a very strong, tight grip. And the next moment I threw him over my head to the other side of the floor. And I think that's when I realized, don't contain this woman, there's problems for me. I joke about that now, but I think, my temperament is that choleric. So I'm very driven, very motivated, go for the flow, charging out in things. And that is my personality. And doing this little action and setting the boundaries is quite an important thing because I'm so driven, I can quickly overpower him. He can say what type of temperament he has, but the boundaries are very clear. As if my strong personality is untamed, or I use my negative side of my strong personality, I do not get anything from my husband. And then even if I don't want to say sorry, you know, it's very difficult for a red choleric person to say sorry. If I put the toothpaste on the brush the next morning, that is sort of a sorry, without me pushing myself now to downgrade myself. I'm so sorry, which is difficult. So that little action is also helping us with, okay, there is a sorry, even if it's very difficult for me to say, I'm sorry. I don't know from your side in terms of your boundaries. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think, you know, the fact that there's 2 different personalities here. The one part of it is, you know, she will barge in and do something, and then, you know, and stand back and wait for things to happen. You know, so sometimes she would put on the toothpaste and walk away without realizing that the blob was too big and some of it is going to fall onto the basin. but there will be some stock onto the toothpaste still, or toothbrush still, you know, or and it's something that, you know, you just have to live with little things like that. So we are imperfect, both of us. We are imperfect in our being, you know, and we grow closer to one another, and we learn to live with one another, and these little quirks and these little things that that we have, each one of us. But it is true that I can be extremely stubborn. So I can be extremely stubborn on a specific point until you've reached that specific goal or point where you've done the necessary action or said the necessary words, or at least shown the humility, or whatever the case may be. You get nothing from me. But that little action of the toothbrush will sort of soften that blow and say, you know, although all of this happened, you know, this is still alive, and we still say. And then that softens that whole thing. It sometimes removes the whole argument, that we don't see the reason to continue with that argument. We'll just stop that whole thing. So both our personalities, I'm more balanced and try and accommodate a variety of things, and I can laugh at myself. This one suffers to do that, you know. But that little action says, you know, I acknowledge that, you know, I'm not always right. I'm not always perfect, and that softens the blow.
I think he's totally the opposite of me. He's phlegmatic, he's a green type of personality. They do not like conflict. I like conflict. I can say my say, and he tries everything in his power not to have conflict. So you can already see the problem we have when we're in a situation. Who's going to listen to who? I want to conflict, and I want to sort it out now. He wants calm and peace. And I think for him also, putting the toothpaste on the toothbrush is somehow his way of confronting. Listen, you are still okay, we're still okay, showing me that I'm still noticed. So I think the toothbrush became that lack of what we cannot do naturally, especially if we cross. For him to naturally come and confront me is not his style. And for me to go and be phlegmatic when I'm upset is not my style. But that neutral little action that we do is sort of making it easy or open up, that I can go to his level and say, okay, let me talk to you. I know there's a problem. Or he can say, listen, I could see that. And I think that is helping us in a way to manage these two extreme different personalities that we have.
That's the salt, or call it the and in the have and share.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So let me ask you a question. I mean, 36 years of marriage. Claudina, you don't like to be contained naturally. You want to spread your wings and fly. And Herman, you don't like to confront the tough issues. You like to have peace and let things lie. I mean, that is total opposites. Have you changed over the 36 years? Has your personality changed in any way? Or do you just compromise?
I think we've both learned skills from the other trade, from the other person. It's not as if I never confront. I would stand on my 2 feet if it's necessary. I don't like doing it because it's not a natural thing, but we've learned certain skill sets, and we've taught each other some form of skill sets from both our personalities, that she knows that sometimes it's better to confront me in a calmer way, or in a different way. You know, take me for a cup of coffee and then say, listen, I have this something to discuss, or to wait until at least the thunderstorms has passed, you know, and then say, all right, let's talk about this now that we are at least open and neutral in this event. And I've learned as well that at certain times that I have to just say, listen, now you listen to me, you stop this nonsense, or I have to sit her down and really take this issue head on. So it's something that doesn't come naturally. So I have to really plan it. I have to really work at it to do it. You know, it's not as if it's something that's in my nature. But, you know, there are times that you just have to sit her down and say, this is it. But I think it's traits that we learned over the course of the years. And we know we say it, and that safety is always there. The commitment in the marriage is from both ends. It's not as if it's half-hearted or, I'm going to look at what you're going to do first before I do it. There's no such thing. It's part of it. It's part of marriage.
Yeah, I think we're both eager in self-development, Shireen, and part of these temperaments that we speak about, we make it our business to try and understand the other person, not to judge them, but to say, okay, if I really want my husband on my side in this, I have to let go of the way, not what I want, the way I approach it and the time I need to approach it. I cannot approach him when he's not in a good frame of mind. And that in 36 years, you learn. You can just watch your partner and is this the correct time? And I mean, our first 7 years of marriage was quite rocky. And I'm going to be honest with you, because we're both very hard-headed. And we had to bring in principles and methods to make the situation for a discussion conducive. So the toothbrush is like in the meantime, till we can have that discussion, things are still okay, but that discussion needs to happen. And I think in the years with, like you said, with learned behavior, we now make an appointment to say, listen, I need time to sit you down, and you're going to have to do that. And you will hear a lot about the black chair principle. We applied this black chair principle in our marriage very strongly. There's rules to this chair. And when you are say, okay, you're ready to be in the chair, that means you are sitting in the chair and listen. And we sometimes must take the appointment and move it out for a couple of days before we can actually get into that space or frame of mind. And I think in the meantime, the toothbrush is just that little, okay, we're still okay, even though we know the problems that we have is quite huge. But it is literally applied knowledge of what we've learned, and more applied knowledge about how can I make life understand him better, so I'm not the one that's feeling the whole time aggro with the situation. And I think that's both of our spirits that we have, is to see what we can do and to improve the relationship with the other person. And I think that's the investment that we do.
I mean, I think what I'm hearing is that actually neither of you have changed. Your nature stays the same, and what you prefer will stay the same. But what you said, Claudina, which I think is extremely powerful, and I think it's the tipping point in any relationship. You said we both are very passionate about personal development. And that makes a huge difference, because if there's only one person who's prepared to compromise, change, and adapt, and the other person puts their fork in the ground and they're just not prepared to make the necessary adaptations or changes or learn to do things differently or accommodate their partner, it really becomes a stalemate. Versus what you and Herman have found, which is, look, we are polar opposites, but we meet in the middle, be it the toothbrush, be it the passion that we share for our values or our quest for personal development. And in that space of personal development, there's space to compromise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Shireen, and it's a very scary place. I mean, it's not easy to do self-development, because you need to look yourself in the mirror and get over that flaws, which is not really flaws. It is just those weaknesses, and start embracing, first of all, your weaknesses, so acknowledge you have it. And I think another big thing that I want to add is we ask each other to help. So I gave him the permission, if he feels I'm too manipulative or I'm too direct or I'm too bombastic, say it. And then I promised him, okay, if he says it or said it to me, I will stop in my tracks, give it a moment of thought, or rather walk away and think about it. And he gives me the permission to do the same with him. I can say to him, listen, this is how I feel, but you do it to me at this moment. And that is part of self-development. But self-development on its own is not an easy path, because you need to look at those areas you don't want to. And once you've looked at it, you cannot use it as an excuse anymore. You have to work on it. And it's a daily thing. We have every moment of our days, we have a possibility of a divorce case or a murder case. But it is the choice to do something different.
Divorce case, no. Divorce case, no. Murder case, definitely, potential.
I did think of a couple of ways to put something on that toothbrush, except for toothpaste, like blue blacks or something.
You got to be careful. Maybe you want to rinse the toothbrush before you put your own toothpaste on. But I like the honesty, because it's the truth. And you know, in today's economy, where there's so much stress and pressure on business, on family, on finances, on everything, on time, the average couple is under fire. The average couple is under pressure. And I think what you bring to the table through Hafenscher, Claudina, we talk about the toothbrush this morning, but in understanding the different personality types and how that understanding can give you the tools to manage your relationships better, whether it's the marriage, as you talk about this morning, or whether it's about a friendship, or whether it's about a relationship with your child or your stepchild or your cousin or your sibling. These tools are hugely valuable, and they can save marriages and they can save relationships if you just understand. There's an enlightenment that happens. So for people who are watching this interview this morning and they want to reach out to you and say, Claudina, please, I need help. I have a problem relationship in my life. I need to resolve it. I'm either struggling at work, or I'm struggling with my child, or I'm struggling in my relationship. How do they reach out to you and connect with you so that you can give them the tools that they need to help smooth out the playing field?
I think we need people around us to highlight our blind spots. You know, I am a certain person with a certain makeup and a certain temperament, and that gives me an unfortunate part of my being, is that I have blind spots. I have blind spots, whether it be her or whether it be my children or things about myself. And these blind spots that I have put me at risk to lose myself and lose my relationship. And therefore the compromising element is that her other function, our other personality type, gives me a light, shines a light on that blind spot. And it highlights it, and it says, listen, here is a little blind spot in your makeup. And in our marriage, those blind spots can cause havoc. So giving each other the ability and also the permission to shine a light on those little quirks or little things that are there, that allows us to grow mutually and also to avoid these little blind spots which we know we have.
Yeah, so I think, Shireen, if people want to reach out, I want to say to us, because it is I am not going to get the accolades for all of this, but they can go to my website, which is called Hafenscher.net. And then the first step is opt-in. You'll see there's an opt-in function. And with the opt-in function, you will actually get access to a temperament test that you can quickly do on your WhatsApp. And as soon as you submit that quiz or the test, you'll immediately get an email of the submission to get to your free coaching session for 15 minutes, where I will then discuss briefly your type of temperament you have. And then we'll take the journey further and see if it is something that you need as a person for your personal growth. Is it a bit of couples therapy that we get both of your temperaments and give you a couple of tips of how to manage it? But that first step, to take the quiz and book your free coaching session with me, is the very first step, I think, to take us on the journey and see where should we put that. So that is the first, I think, the most easiest step to reach out to me at this stage.
Perfect. That's amazing, Claudina. So as we close up this interview to today, and I wish we had more time to speak about it, and maybe if we can woo Herman back into this conversation, we can have more conversations about love and marriage and personality types. I think it's really relative in today's society, where people are generally struggling in those areas. Claudina,
yes,
in 10 seconds, can you share with us unique, quirky, fun personalities, traits about Herman?
Yes, I will gladly do that. You know, I'm going to try to, if there's enough, but let me start with the first one. You know, when you go into a shop as a woman and you go and put something on and you want to go and show husband, and you get out of the fitting room and you get this woof whistle that the whole store is looking at what's going on, and the clapping of hands. And suddenly I'm not only showing this dress or this pants or whatever I have on for him, but the whole store, everybody in them know there's something happening. That's sometimes it's funny, but that puts me totally on edge some other times. Another example is we will walk into our grocery, like, you know, you go and do groceries like normal people do. And then he gets to a butter that in the olden days it was a butter. If you open the lid, the butter goes like Kraft. And he will go to the butter, he pays out the shout, and he say, Kraft, shout out that everybody is looking at him. And then I just take the trolley, I walk on as if he's not there. So that's quirks he have, which is fun. But sometimes I say to him, listen, I want to go to town this morning, but I'm not listening for all your funny jokes. Can we have a normal walking down and stroll down, not having everybody looking at us? So that's the couple of quirks he has.
I love that. You know what? I love that. From an outsider looking in, Claudina, I don't think there's enough playfulness and joy and laughter in the average marriage, to be completely honest. So, you know, I know that may create a few embarrassing moments for you, but I think that's awesome. Herman.
Try this one. Try this one. I always have to laugh with. You try to fit you in the underwear shawl. You try to fit in. Your body is not what it is because you're sitting with a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And if you just want to call husband in, him and the 2 boys are playing hide and seek behind the panties and the bras. Embarrassing you. Sorry. So yes, my sons are, I've got 3 of them in my life. Okay.
That's the beauty of marriage and the intimacy of your marriage, because nobody else can do that. That is your special memories. Seared into your memory bank for the rest of your life. Herman, in 10 seconds.
Oh, no, I can't do it.
Can you share with us, what are some of Claudina's quirky, unique, fun personality traits?
Oh, you saw one already. Did you see that finger? You can go back in the video. There's a couple of fingers. So you'll see that. Let me tell you. And
I think we're going to need to brush teeth often.
Oh, that's the one. There's another one, and this is a fun one. She hates laughing at herself, and she sometimes gets wind of something. You know, I call it her Jack Russell moments. She gets wind of something, and then it's like, whoop, 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 this is the, and she makes up her mind what it's all about, and then she comes to us and she says, "There's this new thing. This is what we are going to do from now on." And then we would ask the questions now. How does this work? And then all of a sudden she knows. She didn't think this through. And then it's like, I don't know. Let's quickly have a look at what this is all about. And then we'll ask a few questions. And then you find that this thing just like a balloon. And I call it the Jack Russell moment. You know, she goes like, and then she knows she cannot tackle this vehicle and just jogs away, you know, tail in the air. You know, at least I knew something and I said something. And now she would call that the Chihuahua moment. Because, you know, it's not a Jack Russell moment, it's a Chihuahua moment. It's something very small. She doesn't like laughing at herself, but that's so special.
And, yeah. Let me rather leave it. Maybe he's thinking of other things which I don't have to share, so let's leave it be.
This is have and share, Claudina. So in some ways you've set the stage, you and Herman and your family, to have and share what you've learned over the course of a marriage and a lifetime. But from my side, I just want to say thank you very much. It's been an amazing interview. I hope we get to interview you again soon. I have no doubt that this interview is going to do extremely well again on social media, because you speak to the truth with and bring such simple things to the table that can really make or break. I hope each person who's listening to this video finds their toothbrush and their toothpaste which anchors their marriage or their relationship, be it at home, at work, or with their child. Sending you lots of love from my side, Herman and Claudina. Thank you for your time this morning, and have a beautiful, beautiful winter day here in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Thank you. Thank you, Shireen.
Bye-bye.